Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, March 21st. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in again this week. Now, first and foremost, happy spring, everybody. We've survived another Boston winter, which started out kind of severe, and so far, fingers crossed, I don't want to jinx this yet. We're not out of the woods, but the last few weeks have been pretty mild up here. So for those of you who are snowbirds and fled New England to get away from the harsh winter, it really hasn't been that bad. So watch, I'll say that, and then we'll get a blizzard in 2 weeks. But regardless, let's jump into the news of the week. And first and foremost, we went to press just this morning with the April edition of our newsletter, The Voice. It should appear in your mailboxes the first week of April. This is always a labor of love for us. We do everything in-house with the exception of course, printing it, which is done by Standard Modern Union Print Shop down in the New Bedford area. And then, of course, with the assistance of our graphic design team at Chameleon Design Group, Jim Crone and Jeff Jordan do a great job. We've been working with the two of them for many, many years now, and the product, I think, speaks for itself. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our general counsel, but editor-in-chief of the newsletter, Bill Reary, for all of the work and the blood, sweat, and tears that he puts into producing every issue of the newsletter. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank the staff of the Group Insurance Commission. This edition of the newsletter is very important in that it contains all of the premium rates for the GIC insurance plans. Of course, open enrollment starts in the month of April, I believe on April 2nd. So we want to make sure we get that information to those of you who are insured through the GIC. That way you can make well-informed decisions in terms of your insurance coverage through the open enrollment period, which runs until the very first week of May. The GIC staff did an excellent job of pulling all that information together for us, getting it over, so we can get the newsletter out the door in your hands in time. Now, in addition to the center spread, which again is the GIC rates, this newsletter is again chock full of important information of direct importance to you as a public retiree. So right on the front page, we have a detailed report on the implementation of the Social Security Fairness Act, along with a detailed article on the GIC and the rates for FY26 and the reason why across the board we're seeing another rate increase for the coming fiscal year. On a happier note, we also have an article about the fantastic performance of the Commonwealth's Pension Reserves Investment Trust Fund, the PRIT fund, which is managed by the PRIM board. And I know these acronyms can be a bit of a mouthful, but this is the second consecutive year where the PRIT fund has significantly outperformed the assumed rate of return and what is assumed that the system will earn year over year, which is 7%. So anything above 7% on average is very good. In 2023, we had a double-digit return of almost 11%. This year, in 2024, was just shy of 10%. So two phenomenal back-to-back years. There's a lot to be proud of there. We're very grateful to the work of the PRIM board and its Executive Director and Chief Investment Officer, Michael Trotsky, who, by the way, will be our guest speaker at a special teletown hall meeting in May. Page 3 of the newsletter always contains the list of upcoming events. We have two area meetings taking place in April, 2 weeks from today, April 4th at the Natick Elks. And then on 3 weeks from today, on April 11th, we will be at the Leominster Fitchburg Elks. Both meetings start at 11 a.m. Full details, again, are contained in the newsletter. All of our meetings are open to all Mass Retirees members, and you're always welcome to bring a guest. In the month of May, we will be up in Peabody. In June, we will be on Cape Cod. And then in September, we will be holding, the first time ever, our annual meeting will take place at Whites of Westport in early September down on the South Coast. Our plan going forward is to rotate around the location for our annual meeting, which is always in early September. And again, this year we're going to start with the meeting down in Westport. We will be holding meetings in Plymouth, in Western Mass, in Pittsfield, as well as West Springfield. And then in Auburn this coming fall, we will have those meeting schedules contained in the July edition of The Voice. So we try to get to all areas of Massachusetts throughout the year to have our area meetings. Attendance at the meetings has been fantastic. It's really exceeded expectations. I think a lot of you are coming out because you're excited about implementation of the Social Security Fairness Act. You want to celebrate that with us. You have questions. So please, if you're in the neighborhood, either in the Natick area or up in Leominster-Fitchburg in 3 weeks, come on by, say hello. The more the merrier. Now, last week we reported on our association's activities at recent conferences in Washington, D.C. One of the conferences I attended 3 weeks ago was the annual conference of the National Institute for Retirement Security, better known as NIRS. At the conference, they previewed a report that was published in late January that was put together as a collaboration between the National Academy of Social Insurance, AARP, NIRS, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The report is titled Social Security at 90, a blueprint for the future, or something along those lines. Excuse me if I bumbled that a little bit. But the basic premise of this was a survey of about 2,300 adult Americans. And what made this different from just your normal survey, it was looking at what types of trade-offs people might be willing to make to guarantee the security as well as improvements to Social Security benefits going forward. Now, why this is so important is the fact that in 2033, as of now, Social Security will become insolvent. Now, that doesn't mean that Social Security is broke. Insolvency means that there will no longer be enough money available to pay 100% of the benefits that are owed to retirees at that time. And I believe the latest actuarial report on insolvency puts it around in 2033, only about 82% of funds that are necessary to pay benefits will be available. So if nothing changes, Social Security will have to reduce benefits for retirees in 2033 by about 18%, which is a lot. We don't want to see that happen. Now, thankfully, time remains available to correct this problem. And this is very similar to what we saw in the lead up to the 1983 Social Security Reform Act, which of course created the weapon GPO laws, where Social Security was inching closer and closer to insolvency, and that led to the largely celebrated reform law that Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan were able to negotiate, signed into law by President Reagan, which guaranteed Social Security's solvency for the next 50 years. Well, we're approaching that point again. So the important thing of this report is the different groups that came together to produce it. It is not only retirement policy experts, retirement advocates like AARP, but also the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is one of the leading business organizations in the country. All of those organizations coming together to focus on finding a solution to improving and bettering Social Security going forward is a really important step. And what they found from the survey is that about 85% of those surveyed support making improvements to the system, but that would require larger tax increases. So, for instance, increasing the Social Security contribution by about 1% from both the employee and employer. So instead of 6.2%, it would become 7.2% and so on. What the survey found that the public does not support, and this should come as no surprise, is either a reduction in benefits or an increase in the retirement age. Both of those options are not widely popular amongst the general population, and for good reason. We don't support those moves either. We believe that there are other changes that can take place and that this report is a good starting point for those changes. So why I bring this up again this week is that at the conference they previewed the report, but this past Wednesday our association participated in an online meeting. It lasted about 2 hours of a deep dive into the reports. And explaining the different questions that were asked, explaining the findings, and talking about potential next steps. And again, we believe that this so-called blueprint is a jumping off point for policymakers and particularly Congress to begin to put together the pieces that are going to be required to reform Social Security. Now, we don't necessarily believe this is going to happen in the next couple of years. Most political observers believe that whomever becomes president next, 4 years from now, that this issue will be very much on their plate going forward. And we hope that solutions can be found sooner, because the sooner that we can correct these problems and shore up Social Security, the better off for everybody. And just providing peace of mind for existing and future retirees is extremely important. But we're going to continue to do our part. Mass Retirees has always prided ourselves in being a leader in terms of overall retirement policy. Here in Massachusetts, we have a long history of successfully advocating for well-funded, strong public pension systems that are sustainable and dependable for current and future retirees going forward. And the fact that we're nearing fully funded status here in Massachusetts across all 104 retirement systems really is a testament to what that type of commitment can result in at the end of the day. And we're going to be doing that same type of advocacy work at the federal level, because these benefits are too important to just allow to fall by the wayside. Now, in addition to our focus on what comes next with Social Security, we're also very focused on the here and now, of course. And the good news is, in terms of the Social Security Fairness Act, with every passing day, we're hearing from more and more members who are reporting to us that you've received your money. I mean, what I'm talking about is the retroactive checks that are owed to those of you whose Social Security benefits were reduced by the weapon GPO. Those payments began just over 3 weeks ago. As of the end of last week, Social Security was reporting that about 71% of beneficiaries who were owed a retroactive check had received their payment, and that those additional payments to get to everyone who's owed the money, the hope is that that will be completed by the end of March. So if you're someone who's receiving Social Security that was reduced by the WEPR GPO and you've not received your money yet, it is coming. Please remain patient. There's no one for you to call. There's no way to look into what the status of this is. Check your bank account day by day. The money will appear. If you're a direct deposit beneficiary, the money's just going to appear in your checking account in most cases without any prior notice. And then in April, you will then begin to receive your new monthly check from Social Security that will be the correct amount going forward. Now, we have had some questions from members saying, well, how do I verify that my recalculation is correct? And some members have indicated that they believe that the amount being given to them by Social Security might be too low. The question is, what can you do? Well, right now there's no one to call. Social Security is asking everyone to remain patient. However, when you receive your written notice from Social Security that explains the new benefit and the retroactive benefit, at the end of that letter, it does provide instructions if you want to appeal the decision. Now, we emphasize or ask you to exercise caution because anytime they're going to dig into these numbers, it could cut both ways. They're going to look at everything. And there could be some cases where someone has been overpaid. And if you contact them and you doubt the numbers, you could open Pandora's box in terms of them recalculating the whole benefit and you actually ending up receiving less. However, if you firmly believe that you have been underpaid, you have every right to appeal that decision. That information, again, is contained on the letter. But there's no one to call. There's no one for us to call. It is an appeal process that you need to go through. And again, until everyone receives their retroactive checks and the recalculated amount, Social Security is not going to be digging into verifying that the numbers that you received were correct on an individual basis. That will come next. But again, everyone should receive their retroactive payments by the end of this month, and then the new monthly amount going forward in April. Now, for those of you who were denied a benefit because of the GPO, our advice is to contact Social Security if you haven't already done so. Ask them what your status is. They may say that you're already in the system and that is being processed. If that's the case, great, there's nothing else you need to do. But for many folks who either did not previously apply for Social Security or were verbally denied the benefit because of the GPO, you may need to reapply for that benefit now. We are continuing to work with members of Congress, trying to make sure that the retroactive application of this includes those of you who are denied a benefit because of the GPO. We don't have any clear answers on how that's going to be handled at this time, but we're going to stick with it and we'll update you as soon as we know more going forward. The last thing I want to mention, I just want to thank those of you who have generously donated to our Political Action Committee in 2025. As most of you, hopefully all of you know by now, we launched our annual drive for the Public Retirees Political Action Committee, our PAC. The PAC is a critical function of our association. The PAC is the political arm of Mass Retirees. It's a separate, distinct organization, but we work hand in hand with one another. And over the past week, we have received generous donations from several hundred members who have donated online. The first step of our annual PAC drive is an email blast to all members. The average contribution this year from those of who have already contributed is running about $44 or so as the average contribution. That is up from $25 as the average contribution a year ago. So again, thank you so much. We deeply appreciate the gratitude of our members. For those of you who have chosen not to contribute online, who would rather receive a paper mailing, we will be sending out the PAC mailing to everybody in about 10 days. You should receive that. It's going to the printer at the end of next week. It will go to everyone who has not already donated online. But again, we can't thank you enough. This is so important to our mission, and it allows us to have the resources that we need to properly advocate on your behalf. So with that, I'm going to wrap up for today. Again, thank you so much for being a member of Mass Retirees. The newsletter is on its way. You'll have it by the first week of April. In the meantime, if you have questions, concerns, complaints, give us a call. We're always here for our members. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.